This is the Chad and Jesse Poker Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Chad and Jesse Poker Show from the 2023 World Series of Poker. I kind of butchered that one. I don't know why.
We'll keep going.
I got a little confused, but I'm Chad Holloway, joined by Jesse Fullen.
That's right. It's 2023, Chad.
2023. I've been doing this a long time now, man. This is my 15th World Series of Poker, first one being back in 2009.
You say this every day. We're all aware.
But you know who's been doing it all longer than I? Our guest this week, the first ever Poker Hall of Famer that we've had on the show, Jack McClelland. I'm pretty excited to talk to him. He's a legend in this industry.
Yeah, without doubt. No, the stories Jack can tell it could fill books. And I'm glad that we have him as a guest. We're very honored to have him on. It's very cool.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into that, before we get into a new Calling the Clock segment, we need to thank a sponsor, Jesse.
That's right. Global Poker is running their Bounty Series 5 again through the end of this week. It wraps up on Sunday. Fantastic. If you like bounties, if you like progressive knockouts, it's a great series. Great entries from all sorts of, like 11 SC up to 99 SC. Definitely worth checking out. Use the code PokerNews if it's your first time signing up. And we got a little special gift for you. Check it out on Global Poker.
All right. Well, one of the topics we're going to talk about here at the top of the episode is the Poker Hall of Fame. It's only fitting Jack McClelland is our guest, first ever Poker Hall of Famer, and nominations are open for the 2023 Poker Hall of Fame class. And the public right now can nominate people. There's no official nominees. What they're going to do is take a list, compile a list from all these nominations that the public makes, and then there will be a vote among the living Poker Hall of Fame members. So it's interesting right now. It's that, all right, everybody, if you got somebody you love, nominate them right now. You know, maybe Jesse, you can nominate me since I turned 40 and am officially eligible.
Nah, I'm good. I'm set. Thanks, though.
Well, the criteria for those, I don't think I meet all the criteria, right? So
no, you don't.
I mean, maybe for the here's the criteria for players. The prerequisites are to have played high stakes poker, the highest levels, stood the test of time. They often take what?
I'm just saying, that's not you.
For me. Yeah. I just thought you were thinking, oh, no, you're getting it wrong.
No, you're absolutely
I certainly
right.
do that.
No.
And then for the builder category, it's, standing the test of time, all that, but also making a positive impact for the game. I don't know if I did that, do that, or you. Does this show making a positive impact?
I enjoyed the old Hold 'em on Holloway stuff you used to do, but it's been ages since you've released one of those.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been too long.
What are you thinking for the Poker Hall of Fame this year, Jesse? I'll tell you what, I have some qualms about it, and I've made no secret about that, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I want to know your thoughts on the Poker Hall of Fame.
So my thoughts are who I want in. I mean, I got thoughts for days on the Poker Hall of Fame. I love the Poker Hall of Fame. I think it's a great way to acknowledge the history, acknowledge the greats. But then you look at it. If you look deeper at it, it's kind of hilarious. I mean, what was it? Let's see. What year was it that the guy who played James Bond was the entry?
Yeah, Roger Moore.
Roger Moore. What year was that? Was that 97? In 1997, there was one person who got inducted, and it's Roger Moore, the guy who played James Bond. Makes no sense. I mean, so it's got a little interesting. You also have, who is it? Edmund Hoyle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. We know Hoyle's, rules on cards and stuff. He was inducted in the very first year, 79. The Hall of Fame is just a weird thing. It makes sense with Johnny Moss, of course, with Nick the Greek, others, from that era. But Wild Bill, I mean, okay, aces and eights. The Hall of Fame is a special, unique thing. I think it's fantastic. We need it. We definitely need it to conserve history. I love the history of poker, as do you. I know we've talked about this for years already, Chad. But yeah, it's interesting. There were many years back in the 80s when just one person got in, just like current. From 81 up to 87, it was one person a year, with people like Tam Abdo, Bill Boyd, Puggy Pearson in 87. Right. Then you got 88 with Doyle and Treetop. That's the first year there ever were two outside the very first year when they put a big class in. Then it was back to just one a year again for most of the 90s until really the 2000s. After the Moneymaker era, that's when we start seeing two people a year.
Yeah, I think that's when, Caesars took over. Harrah's back then, now Caesars, and they made some changes, made it a little more professional, if you will, because like you say, Roger, coming off the heels of Roger Moore in 1997, they needed to make it more legitimate in a lot of regards. And they did have that system of doing two a year for a long time. And then that lasted right up until 2020, the pandemic hit. right? Then this is where it all changed. So even in 2019, I think for me personally with Poker News from about 2015 to 2019, as a member of the media, we had a vote. And I had a vote in the Poker Hall of Fame, and so did a lot of my colleagues. But that changed after the pandemic. They came back. I think there was a lot of restructuring within the Caesars WSOP Corporation, and they maybe lost a lot of the contacts for people who voted in the past or what have you. They decided to simplify it, and only the living members of the Poker Hall of Fame now get a vote, which I'm conflicted about because I did take it as a great honor to have a vote in the Poker Hall of Fame, took it very seriously, as I know my colleagues did. And I think that's why somebody like a Chris Moneymaker was able to get in 2019. The media side really pushed him for his contributions because the living Hall of Fame members are largely a lot cash game players, high stakes that might not recognize that aspect. So I do think it's a shame that the media isn't involved any longer. And also this one a year is, I'm all for exclusivity. I don't want to see it where we're inducting 5, 6 a year. I like the 2. I think the 2 was good. This one at a time makes it difficult because we have this backlog now of people who are very deserving of getting in, that every year their chances are getting a little slimmer because every year somebody new is turning 40. Brian Rast recently turned 40. And Michael Mizrachi, he was nominated last year. He turned 40. And we're going to get more of those. You got the Jason Merciers, the Vanessa Selps, these Tom Dwan eventually. They're all going to be there eventually.
Yeah. For me growing up, I really paid attention to baseball a lot. My dad was part of the Astros back in the 60s. My uncle was a pitcher. My dad was a bat boy. That was his part. I mean, so my whole family was big baseball. All that said, Baseball Hall of Fame was something we really paid attention to. There was not an Astro in the Hall of Fame until Biggio and Bagwell got inducted, somewhat recently. All that said, baseball has a great system where you can be eligible and then you can be ineligible. Like once your time passes, it's gone. But that's a way to always have a fresh group each year versus what poker has right now, where we have just, lists and lists of people who are eligible, who we all want in. I mean, but here's the thing, like Matt Massow, he should have been put into the Hall of Fame a decade ago, without a doubt. He absolutely deserved it and everything. But now, 10 years later, it feels like those memories are starting to really disappear. And all that energy and gas for him, it either is going to be forced in, or it's like, it should have already happened. And that's a problem. Same way with baseball players like Barry Bonds or any of those guys from the early 2000s, McGuire, like their time was around. We pushed, it didn't happen. Okay, we move on. I think poker needs to definitely consider some options, either make it 2 a year or look at a system like the Baseball Hall of Fame and give people based on votes, where 1 year it could be 4, 1 year it could be 1, based on how the votes come in. As long as you get a certain percentage, I say,
yeah,
it's just hard. But we're going to have this conversation every year. That's the problem too. Yeah. We're going to have this exact same chat every year when the World Series comes around until something happens. So the sooner the better, because then we can move on.
And this is going to be an interesting year, as it's the first year of the Poker Hall of Fame's existence that Doyle Brunson isn't going to be around, right? This Poker Hall of Fame was established in 1979. Doyle Brunson was inducted in 1988. And he's had such a large influence over the Poker Hall of Fame in terms of a lot of people would seek his advice in the poker community, right? So guys like Crandall Addington, who aren't necessarily involved in the poker industry anymore, but are a Poker Hall of Fame member and have a vote, oftentimes would go to like a Doyle and say, hey, fill me in. Who should be in? Who should? So it's kind of like this voting block, not a collusion voting block per se, but just held a lot of sway, if you will. And now that Doyle is no longer there, having passed away, unfortunately, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of happens with the votes in the Poker Hall of Fame. I know last year, Tom McAvoy and TJ Cloutier both really threw all their votes towards Kathy Lieber. And so I'm really interested to see what the public comes up with in terms of who they think should be nominated, and then what the World Series of Poker and officials ultimately compile. I think there'll probably be a list of 10 nominees. To give you an idea, last year it was the late Lane Flack who was inducted, which I think was well-deserving. Other nominees that year, Josh Aryeh, Bertrand Grospellier, a.k.a. Elke, the aforementioned Kathy Lieber, and Mike Matisow. Two people I know you're a big fan of, and me too. One of them who was recently a guest, Lon McCarran and Norman Chad, the famed WSOP commentary duo. Michael the Grinder Mizrahi, Brian Rast, Matt Savage, and Isai Scheinberg. I think a lot of those guys are going to be on the list again, but I do expect that we're going to see some new faces. And from what I understand, though, it's only going to be one player gets in again. That seems to have been more or less confirmed by the WSOP. So,
yep, that's what it's going to be for now. And I think with that, Chad, I think we can just go ahead and move on to our segment, Calling the Clock. Let's go ahead and welcome Bob Smith.
Clock has been called. You now have 2 minutes to talk about these 8 topics. At the end of 1:55, there'll be a 5-second countdown. If I say the word 0, that topic is dead.
All right, Calling the Clock. We're going to get started. Our first topic is Joseph Altamonte returns to poker with a bang. Man, he has a girlfriend for, 9 years?
9 years.
9 years, and he takes a break from poker,
because she didn't like it. She hated poker. She didn't want him to play poker, and he didn't play poker. He lived, happy wife, happy life type of thing, I guess.
Yeah. I guess that's a rough life, man.
I mean, you're fortunate. Your wife lets you play poker.
Yes, she does. I've been married 17 years, and I've been able to play poker quite a bit in those 17 years.
Well, this guy takes a 9-year break, comes to the 2023 World Series of Poker, navigates a field of 3,200 entries, and wins the $600 PLO tournament for a gold bracelet and $217,000. You got to think that girlfriend is questioning right now, like, okay, maybe that poker thing is worthwhile.
I remember there's a girlfriend I had when I was a kid, and she wanted me to kiss her, and I was just too afraid. I'd never kissed a girl before. And I said no, and I could push her off. And then my next girlfriend I did kiss, and I called up the ex. I called her up, and I was like, hey, guess what I did? I kissed a girl. Oh, yeah. I wonder if this guy called her up and be like, hey, guess what? I went and played poker and I won a bracelet. You held me back. He could have had maybe 10 or 15 by now. He could have been next to.
Yeah.
Yeah. 9 years. 9 years. He comes back, he wins it first day. Come on.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And
it's insane.
I'm guessing, he probably doesn't have to call. Just have the winner's photo. Like, they've got to run in the same circles after 9 years, mutual friends and
just
all that.
Just tag her on Instagram.
Yeah.
Post that picture, just tag her in the background.
What a great story, though.
Horrible.
The huge field. I actually fired a bullet into this one. PLO, very popular, 3,200 entries, and just a fun story. Otherwise it's just man wins poker tournament. Yeah. But him sharing that detail of, oh yeah, I've been taking a 9-year break because of the ex-girlfriend, but now she's on the curb, and so I came back. I
mean, it must have just been heating him up, like to win that bracelet, to know that 9 years he was just waiting for this.
Yeah.
I mean, just so brutal.
It's a good thing he didn't put a ring on it, because now he's got a bracelet on his wrist.
That's right. Player of the Year update. Newsflash, Chad Epslich is our leader. Shocker.
Yeah, I mean, he wins 2 bracelets, both of the dealer choices, and he becomes the most popular Chad in poker.
By far.
It's been fun to.
In fact, we're trying to get him to come in the show and just let you.
Yeah,
there's no other. Well, there are other Jessies too.
It's funny because I'm trying to get Jesse Sylvia to come be. So we're just trying to replace each other.
Brutal.
But no, what I was kind of interested in is, obviously, he wins 2 bracelets. He's got to be a huge favorite for Player of the Year, right? Which he still is, obviously. But looking at after the first week, the actual points, it's not as a runaway as I would have thought. He has, in our last update, now this has changed a little bit since the article was published, but he had almost 2,000 points, 1,948.
Oh, I've got the WSOP numbers up there today. He has 2,153 right now, as of today, Friday, June 9th. Right behind him is Tyler Brown, sitting with 1,739. And I mean, that's way closer than I thought we'd see anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And Tyler Brown, of course, the winner of the Mystery Millions. And I think he also had another final table appearance already. So he's off to a strong start as well.
Yeah, you got Brian Yoon sitting third with 1,293. That's how big this difference is. 1,293 is third, 17 and 2,100 for our leader. Ike Haxton, who won last night. Yeah, I'll get that. We'll talk more about Ike in a minute. But he's sitting fourth at 1,256. I mean, these numbers are great. Even Joseph Altamonte, who we just talked about, he's sitting 11th with 1,000.
Yeah. I still think Chad Epslich is going to be hard to catch, because he's going to play everything. He's going to put in a full schedule. He's a great player, reigning WPT Player of the Year, now the leader in the WSOP Player of the Year race. He's going to be hard to catch. But that said, I've been around enough WSOPs to know that early on, sometimes those players who run hot early end up cooling off, and then somebody catches fire. There's been times in recent history where we thought, all right, this person's going to win Player of the Year. They don't end up winning it. We'll have to wait and see.
Sitting 27th, Sean Deeb. Okay. All right. So let's talk about Michigan PA bracelets. Chad, we just had our first online bracelets awarded. Todd Estes wins his second online bracelet, which is pretty sick. I got to go to his house in Michigan, of all places, with Norman Shad last year to award the very first ever bracelet given in the state of Michigan. But we're both kind of thinking the same thing here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking this. So look, it's great. It's a great accomplishment. The online markets are exciting.
Yep.
But when you have a tournament like this, which had 170 something players,
132. With 46
with some re-entry. So 178 in a $500 online event.
Yeah.
Great accomplishment. It is a bracelet, but it doesn't compare to the Mystery Millions bracelet that was just awarded, or these massive fields live. There is a distinction, and in fact, I've started writing when I write reports wins an online bracelet to just kind of. There's got to be a separation, I think, because there is in most players' minds.
But here's the deal: when you think about the World Series of Poker past, the history. I mean, this bracelet is bigger than any of the bracelets from the 70s combined almost.
Yeah.
Like the 70s were years where the first main event only had 11 runners. I mean, it's just we've gone through those years. So yes, this is a small field bracelet, but at the same time, it's still a World Series of Poker bracelet. It still has something behind it because, I mean,
if somebody says, "Oh, I'm a World Series of Poker bracelet winner," and oh, great, that's awesome, what a great accomplishment. And what event did you win? And they say, "Oh, I won the $10,000 7-card stud championship." Awesome, that's great. Compared to saying, "Oh, I won the Michigan event number 1 $500 bankroll builder." Not to take it away, I don't mean to do that, but there is a difference.
Talking to Todd, he loved it. I mean, for him, when he won it last year, it meant more than anything in his poker career. And I think that still has a reason to it.
To be fair, my bracelet isn't as equal as a 7K. Yeah.
So talking about the Poker Hall of Fame nominations. Nominations are open, Chad. We talked about this quite a bit already to start the show, but we haven't talked about who we want to get in there. And I have I'm kind of stretched, man. Who are you going with?
There are a lot of people who deserve to be in the Poker Hall of Fame, but I've said this for a long time, and I know a lot of people echo this sentiment. Until Isai Scheinberg, the founder of PokerStars, is in there, it is incomplete, if you will. He deserves to be in there. He changed the game of poker tremendously. He's been honored by so many other outlets over the course of time. He single-handedly just changed the face of poker. If it wasn't for Isai Scheinberg, there would have been no Chris Moneymaker. There would have been no Poker Boom. PokerStars wouldn't have existed. Daniel Negreanu feels the same way. So many other people. Isai Scheinberg needs to get in. I understand there were a lot of politics that he had, the Black Friday indictments and stuff, but that's all cleared up now. He's a hero in the poker world, and he needs to be honored as such with the Poker Hall of Fame.
Are you trying to get a job from him or something? Good Lord. My God, here's your pitch right here. Chad, I mean, nothing against Isai, but we have Matt Savage, who's given so much to the game. Even, just sitting here with Jack today, we're going to think about Jim Albright, how he's not in there. And Jim was right there next to Jack. Jack's in there. Jack Binion's in there. We have lots of builders. I think it's time for Matt Savage, or maybe to look back at Jim Albright's time and pull him in. He's a long forgotten,
They need to also, we talked about the Poker Hall of Fame and the way they're doing things. One thing, it's hard for a builder to get in because most of the people who are voting are players and they don't necessarily, equate. They want to get their peers in there. So I would like to see a change where once every 3 years or something, an additional builder is brought into the Poker Hall of Fame.
Yeah, for sure. I hope to see Norman, Shad, and Lon get in there. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think well-deserving. Matt Savage, too. Everybody who's nominated deserves it. Not to take away from anybody in that regard. It's just that some people, come on, we got to get them in there because their contributions are
PokerNews Cup is returning to the Golden Nugget. I had so much fun last year at the Golden Nugget hosting this great event. We had a broadcast for day 2 and day 3, but this year we're adding a little spice to it. This year we're making this a mystery bounty, and I am so excited because I get to help put this whole thing together. And one thing we're doing is something I haven't seen yet. I feel like I've talked about it enough where someone could reproduce this, but what we're doing is when you watch a mystery bounty, what you see is people open their envelope, they look at it, then you get to see their face as how to react. Are they sad? That means it's a min cash. Are they happy? Okay, now how big is it? This time we're going to have every envelope open on a felt with a camera over top, just like a flop gets pulled out. That's what we're going to try to see so that we can sweat with each envelope. I'm excited about this, but there's another thing about the Golden Nugget, Chad. You can tell them all about that.
Yeah, so the PokerNews Cup, $1,100 buy-in, $1 million guarantee. Remember, last year, this tournament was a big success. It ended up attracting, I think it was 1,245 entries. The prize pool was over $1.2 million, the largest. Yeah, in Golden Nugget history. We're talking about, I think, the oldest casino or one of the oldest casinos in Las Vegas. So to set that record was very special. I think this year is going to be even larger given the mystery bounty format. And that's going to take place, what is it? It's going to be the end of June 28th, I think, through July 3rd. Yep. We're going to start streaming on day 2. I'll be doing commentary. You're going to be doing some of the bounty draws. It'll be very exciting. The final table then on July 3rd. And if you want to play this event, right now, the Golden Nugget, well, not right now, they've announced it, but June 24th through June 29th, they're going to literally give away 100 seats into this tournament. $1,100 seats for the PokerNews Cup simply by playing in the cash game room at the Golden Nugget. You go, you sit down, there's going to be random drawings, and that's all you got to do.
Yeah, it's great.
It doesn't get much better than that.
They did this last year, and it was such a big success, and I hope to see it happen. It's happening again. It's great. Yep. It's great. All right, so the BetMGM Poker Championship over at Aria starts today. I don't know much else about it.
Yeah, $3,500 buy-in. They've upped the guarantee to $2 million. This is the Aria's, flagship summer tournament. We have a PokerNews live reporting team photographer over there, and I know a lot of folks are going to go from the World Series over there to try their hand at it. Right now, it's just day 1A, and I'm looking over some of the players who are in the field. You got Farah Gaffand, Juhal Helpe. You've got, you're going to have Darren Elias, who just final tabled. Was it the 25K high roller? Yeah. We're going to talk about that. So you're going to have a lot of people that you would expect to see at the World Series going over there because it's such great value. And one of the reasons it's such great value is because BetMGM has been qualifying players from Michigan, from New Jersey, from Pennsylvania, and sending them, to this tournament via packages. So there's going to be a lot of qualifiers, and the field is just going to be a juicy mix of these recreational online qualifiers and top pros.
Last year, Joey Wiseman, I love Joey Wiseman. He won it. There were 343 entries. He took in the $224,000 first place prize, defeating Paul Heffer in heads-up play. It's exciting, and it's great to have these big events around Vegas. Because while the World Series offers something for everybody, it's just you have to be around the city.
And if you go play this one, you can meet a poker celebrity because I see she's in the field right now, Robbie J. Liu.
Heyo.
She's there playing. Go play that Jack 4. You can compete against her. But now this is one of those, I'm going to leave the World Series for a little bit and at least go over there and check it out because this is a great event. And the final table is going to be live streamed on PokerGo. And as I said, of course, we've got the PokerNews live updates and just looking forward to another big BetMGM Poker Championship.
It's also part of a series. There's an $800 mystery bounty taking place, part of that on June 8th as well. Or I guess that was yesterday. But it's a great whole series.
Yeah.
It's definitely one to look forward to. So Ike Haxton finally wins his first bracelet.
Yeah, he was on our list of best without a bracelet.
Without a doubt.
Probably the top person there, right? And it's a great accomplishment on his part. This was in the 25K high roller, takes it down for $1.7 million essentially. And secretly, I guess this exposed it a little bit more, at least for me. He's having a tremendous year on the felt in 2023. We're about halfway through, a little over halfway through, and he's already won over $7 million, gets his first bracelet here. Is this going to be the year of Ike Haxton?
I hope so, because I feel like he's gotten a lot of love the last few years, but there was just a big amount of time where I just didn't see him. And I've been a fan for, since it feels like the mid 2000s. Looking back at his WSOP records, he had a 2009 second place finish, a 2017 third place finish, 18 fourth place finish, 2011 a seventh place, another seventh. So yeah, he made lots of final tables. Let's see, a second, third, fourth, seventh, eighth, ninth, if we were going to make the unofficial final table, that's nearly 10 right there.
Right.
It's definitely, he showed he's got skills. We know he has skills. He's won plenty of other events, but the WSOP was always one that was just inches away. And there we go. This was his sixth victory in 2023. Yeah. It brought his lifetime tournament earnings up to more than $37.5 million. And Jesse, let me ask you, put a guess out there. Where do you think that ranks him now on the all-time poker money list? 37.5 million?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. What's the top?
I think somebody's cracked like 60 million at this point. Justin Bonomo, so his good friend who was in the winner's photo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. I'll say he's in the top 15.
Well, Well, that's true. He is in the top 15.
Yeah.
You want to get more specific?
I guess I'll say like 9th.
He was close to 14th now. 14th.
Oh, okay.
Which I was surprised.
Oh, it was close.
I thought 37.5 million would get him in the top 10 at least, but he's well on his way.
All right. This is a stupid one. This is the dumbest one we're ever talking about probably in the show. A woman on the rail of I don't know what tournament it was. Was it?
I think it was the 2,500, six-handed maybe, or something. I don't know. Yeah, just on the rail.
A woman makes some joke to the guy with her, and then he just slaps him in the balls.
Yeah, nut slap.
Yeah. And what the best part about it was that you got PokerGo. It's right in the corner of this. We got a picture on the screen. You got to watch this clip. Holy moly. It's just so good. The guy just falls over.
Yeah, it was
slowly.
I mean, any guy who's been hit just right down there knows, like, okay, yeah, it's kind of a pain that doubles you over. And that seemed to be the case. She must have got it just right. And it was just the guy, I don't even know who was playing the hand, but he was thinking. So the camera was on him, and this couple, there are a couple of friends, whatever they were in the background on the other side of the rail, just happened to catch it perfectly. And then you had the commentators, David Tuckman and Brent Hanks,
that's it,
just reacting to it perfectly.
So good.
Yeah, and Brent tweeted it out, and I saw it, and I thought, this is just a weird piece of gold from the WSOP.
Without a doubt. I can't remember what year it was. Maybe it was 2019, but I saw a guy with a drink on the rail, and like he like trips and it goes up in the air, and you can see it perfectly, like the whole thing. That was great that year. I was like, oh, it's so fun to see stuff in the rail, and like, but this, my goodness.
It was just funny because the guy, like, it's a slow reaction, and like it's like the pain is working through him because he's slowly, and then he starts doubling over, and I think she's like, oh, are you okay? And this is all playing in the background of the poker drama that's happening. And now I don't know who these two people are, but I have a feeling that's going to come out on social media, and this is going to be what they're known for in poker now.
Oh, without doubt. Yeah. I'm all for people getting known for in poker, but not for this.
I mean, it gives a whole new meaning to hitting the nuts in poker lingo. Am I right?
I hate you so much. With that, we're going to wrap this up with a nice little bow on it. Thanks a lot, Chad Holloway, for ending with that bullshit.
My pleasure.
Okay, let's go ahead and welcome. I'm so excited. I have been a fan of the Poker Hall of Fame for years and years, and who we're bringing in, Jack McClelland, has a storied history. From the mid-'80s through the late 90s, he was one of the two top bosses for all the tournaments run at WSOP at Horseshoe. With Jim Albright by his side, these guys made things happen. That's the years that Helmuth won his bracelet, Johnny Chan, Stu Ungar, lots of the legends were there, and these guys made those calls. And so let's bring in the gentleman, Jack McClelland.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are with our guest this week, somebody we're very excited to talk to, our first ever Poker Hall of Famer on the Chad and Jesse Poker Show, Jack McClelland. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. We're very excited to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
It's, Jesse and I have both talked to you over the years. We love poker history, and you're just so filled with great stories. We're going to get into some of that here in a bit. And for those who don't know, you were in charge of the World Series of Poker, the tournament director in, what was it, the 80s?
84 to 98.
Wow. There were some very historic,
that's Johnny Chan, both his years. That's, let's see.
Helmuth.
That's Helmuth. Yeah, that's, you missed Doyle, obviously. Like, who else is in there?
Stu Ungar, Mont Luby.
Yeah. It was Brad Doherty,
Bill Smith,
the
Brad Doherty.
first $1 million winner.
Yeah.
What was it like back? I mean, we're at the Horseshoe now. It's not the same Horseshoe, of course, but they're trying to, put that play on it. But what was it like to be at Binion's Horseshoe on Fremont Street in those days of the WSOP?
It was a lot of fun. It was very crowded. We had to be a little inventive down in the Oyster Bar and out in the hallway and across the street. But it was a good time.
Yeah. Did you ever imagine that it would get to like we're seeing right now? I mean, you've seen just coming in today how busy it is.
Well, Jim Albrecht and I believed it would with the TV. And for the 25th the silver anniversary in 94, he worked for like 3 years with everything to get advertising. Nobody wanted to watch a 20-hour TV show back then, and nobody wanted to put up $10,000 and have the tournament over in 3 hours. So, I mean, it was a tough sell.
Oh, yeah.
We finally got Mountain Valley Water that we took the cash out and put on the table. They did something, and he got some TVs from one of the TV companies. That was it. And he worked very hard for about 4 years on it.
Wow.
So Tell me what got you into poker? What brought you to the Horseshoe when you first took that job?
Well, I always loved poker. My grandparents kept me broke until I was about 10 because I couldn't throw a hand away. And I came to Vegas in 76 with my mother, who had emphysema. And all I wanted to do was deal poker, or, be in the poker business and play naturally. But I mean, I had to take my mother to take care of. So they had no poker dealing schools back then. So I went to a blackjack school where they spent like 3 days trying to get everybody to quit because you already paid your money, except for the pretty girls, or maybe somebody was really skilled. So it worked. And now I was a semi-professional bowler, about like a satellite player. I was just good enough to stay broke and barely smart enough to realize it after a while. So, but I was bowling with a gentleman named Larry Turner, and he dealt to Old Sahara, and went down there and introduced me to the manager, and he liked people that played. So I made a point every morning when he come to work, I was there playing. When he came at night, I was there playing. So after about a week, he got tired of me pestering. He gave me a job. So I started out at, I think, $14 a day. And you got,
my God.
That's
awesome.
You got one meal down in the dungeon, which was the leftover buffet at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh no.
So it was, I never did make dealer. I was what they called a show dealer back there for 2 years. And after a year, I became a boss, and that was about it. And I got to where I loved to play in the tournaments. They had tons of small tournaments around town, and $30, $50, $100, whatever. And I played a lot of those, and I just loved it. And Eric Drake, who was the director back then, so I said, "Come down and run a shift at the Horseshoe." So I was going to do that, and I said, "Nah." And then the next year said, "We really need you." So I went down to run a shift, and some people had got fired for this and that and whatever. So the first year I ran a shift, and I was there like 16 hours a day because I was doing a tournament after my shift was over. And the next year I became the assistant. And then about a year later, I became the director.
Oh, my gosh.
What was it like to work, under Benny Binion back then, and then Jack Binion, of course? I
probably spoke maybe 100 words to Benny Binion in my life. Most people were scared to death of him. The best conversation I ever had with him was the last one. We were up at the steakhouse, which was fabulous back then. And it was on dinner break. So we're coming down the steakhouse, and Benny steps on the elevator. And he looks at me and he says, "Son," "how long have you been working for us?" I said, 7 or 8 years, Mr. Binion. He says, "Well, you must be doing a good job. Otherwise, I would have ran your ass off down the road." And that's word for word. I gave the same speech at the Hall of Fame speech. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Good Lord.
And Jack was great. We always thought he was very cheap because it didn't pay much, but it wasn't him, it was the family.
Right.
When he went to Tunica and places like that, everything was good. But I heard him say once, I always wanted a bright joint. I always had a dark joint with the Horseshoe. And he went back to Tunica and, other places back there, and they were beautiful places.
Yeah.
So,
we recently lost the legend Doyle Brunson, and obviously you had many years with him at the World Series of Poker and just in poker in general. Do you have any fun Doyle stories or memories?
Oh, a lot of memories. Doyle, it's unbelievable how smart he was, and he was good at the hustling. You lose your money to him and you didn't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Some people are really good at that, and some people aren't. But I mean, and he was funny. He's a very generous guy, helped out so many people, and very classy. I was at his home up in Montana one time with him and his wife, and I went to Todd's tournament up in Montana and just had a lot of fun. But he was just a great guy, wonderful ambassador for poker. Well, like I said, he was the godfather of poker.
Right.
He was a champion, a legend, and he was a friend.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see.
I know Jesse loves characters of poker, like Stu Ungar? And you probably got some Stu Ungar stories.
Oh, yeah. Stewie was difficult to handle at times. And he always had his watchdog bodyguard with him. And so another, he was not a real good sized guy. So, but everybody was, didn't want to take a smack at him or something because they didn't know what would happen. But so he was very mouthy, but he was so talented. There was one tournament to 4 queens back in the day. The final table was 9 players. It took 49 hands. Stewie raised 49 hands.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And he either had the best hand or he made the best hand. Busted all 9 players.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
That's pretty dominating. And, dealing with people like Stewie and other people, because there's stories back in that day and age that people weren't always the nicest to the dealers. They would misbehave. And you didn't have a rule book back then. We've talked about this before. You've kind of had to invent it as you went along.
Yeah, when I started, you said shuffle up and deal, and then somebody take a shot and you make a rule. After a while, I just started writing them all down. And I remember Linda Johnson comes to me and says, you got to come to the Tournament Directors Association. I was semi-retired at the time.
Right.
I said, what do I need to go to that for? I made those rules. And they wanted to change the rule. So we went and sat for 4 or 5 hours, and they changed one little thing. Next year we sat for like 7 hours. They changed 2 things. Next year I said, guys, I'm busy. I don't know.
It's a lot of time they spend there going over every little detail for sure.
Well, Doug Dalton and myself and Marcel Lewis and his partner, we did a rule book for the, I don't know if it was the European Federation or what. It took months and months and months. It was 193 pages, and that didn't include Badoogie and Badusi and all that stuff. I said, guys, I am never doing this again. I will retire first.
So, Jack, I heard in 94, we had the silver anniversary, and that's the year that you guys had the scale come out and all the silver. I heard a story about there not being enough silver at the end. Do you remember that?
Well, what happened was they wanted to, we all knew as lucky as Jack Binion was. That's either some little Asian like Tab or Man or something, or a woman would win it. The weight about 80 pounds.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And so when they got down to the last table, they were doing the silver. So I stood on the other end of the scale so they could see how it kind of balanced. I weighed 333. And Russ Hamilton, who won it, he weighed about the same. And Jack Keller, who we put in the Hall of Fame, weighed about the same. So we all weighed about the same. A week later, I went and got the gastric bypass. But anyhow, that's another story.
Yeah.
But they probably didn't. I don't know if they give. I don't know how they paid him off as it worked out.
So the story I heard was that they I think Jack Binion only brought in 300 pounds, and that
that's true.
That Russ was too embarrassed to say he weighed more. Yeah. So that was the year where the winner got the money, the bracelet, and also they weighed you silver. And they're weighing silver, right? Yeah. And so so he ended up getting shorted. Like 20 or 30 pounds of silver. So
I said, wait a second, it's a golden anniversary. As you get your weight in gold, no, we're going to give you no entry fee on the opening tournament.
That was a one-time deal, just one time only. There you go.
Another thing I love about poker history is actually right over, I think, on Jesse's shelf.
Oh, yeah.
This WSOP video game. I read about it in the old programs for the World Series of Poker. Jesse actually found this at a thrift shop in Las Vegas.
Yep.
I didn't think it existed when I first started researching it, and then lo and behold, it did. And then Jesse tells me that you were heavily involved with it.
That's another long story, but anyhow, Jim Albrecht, who was the manager of the poker room, he came up with the idea, and a guy he found named Wayne, he did all the technical work, so I needed an investor, so I invested money in it. So now Wayne, I'm working 24 hours a day getting this all done. So got it done. It played pretty good. We couldn't get it on the shelves. And Wayne says, I got these connections, those connections. So about 3 months later, we found it every night. He'd go down to Sam's Town and play all night. So as it ended up, Jim ended up forcing him out, and I think I got my money back plus $4. And I was tickled to death.
Yeah, right. That's only when you sold it, right? When you sold it to another distributor.
We sold it to, I think it was a company I think it was in Denver.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it's because this one has the floppy disks, but then they went to CD-ROM. I think that's when you guys got your investment back barely by an inch. But yeah, the story I heard from you was that the guy who made it was just out playing poker and drinking all night. He wasn't actually
I don't
doing
know
the
if he
work.
was drinking or not, but he wasn't working as hard as we thought he was.
Right.
Did you have to work with the Horseshoe to get their permission to use the World Series of Poker? I know things were a lot more relaxed back then than it is nowadays.
That was more Jim's department.
Yeah.
He came up with all those. He had a lot of great ideas. I mean, when the IRS came and wanted us to all do the taxes,
Yeah.
so he got the books and studied them. And by the next year, 3/4 of the IRS gaming department had either got fired or quit because they couldn't handle him. He said right off, he says, guys, make it so if they win $5,000 or more in cash, you tax them. You got 5% of the paperwork and you get all the money. Oh, no. Somebody wins a satellite, they got to fill out a form. Somebody wins 600, they got to fill out. I mean, it was really brutal for a lot of years.
I like watching the old WSOP episodes and seeing Jim. He's in there and stuff.
He was a wonderful, wonderful guy. He had a disease, and he got some bad breaks too. When Jack left, I just thought I wouldn't go work for his sibling, and none of my people did either. And Jim was there, and so basically, kind of what they did was all the management they fired, and then moved everybody up and paid them less.
Mm.
And
oh no.
And don't make a difference if you know anything or not. So, and they had an emergency. Jim has to be right there. And on the escalator, he fell and hurt himself. So they never go fire him while he was in the hospital.
Wow.
He said, wait a second. I don't really think you want to fire a disabled person. That might not be too good for you in the end.
Yeah. Different time for sure. And after you left the World Series of Poker, you went over to the Bellagio for many, many years.
Well, after I left the World Series of Poker, I was doing the tournaments at Commerce. I did the first tournaments over there. The B Club close by had all the business, and they came and said, "Can you bring us the business?" I said, "I can bring it to you one time, and you got to keep it." And boy, they did everything I asked them. They did. They did. The money for the Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
You could not play in a tournament and not walk out with something saying Commerce on it, a hat, a shirt, anything. I mean, that was their business, and they understood the advertising in the business. Jim Barbeau, Mr. T, they were just a wonderful group to deal with.
Uh-huh. Do you have any great stories from your time in whether it's the World Series, elsewhere, as a tournament director, just like a situation you had to deal with that was a little wild, a player that was out of control, or that kind of story?
Yeah. What's your craziest story from the Bellagio? Because you were there during the fabled years, the best years in our experience.
I know I've felt good about helping make those years happen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I'd basically retired, and my late wife passed away, and I decided to get remarried. And my wife, she loved to, what do I say? She loved to build and remodel and design and everything like that. And I said, and I'm going out to play poker at 8:00 at night. And she's going to bed, and she's up at 8 a.m. I'm going to bed. and I said, this ain't working too good. So I said, I might as well go back to work.
Yeah.
And so Elizabeth, she's one of the two great stories of my life, and she supported me fully. So I got a call. I think at first I worked a tournament in Aruba, and I worked a tournament at Four Queens, and I had her run satellite. Well, no, first tournament we did was go to Tunica.
Okay, yeah.
And so I said, we're going to go to Tunica for like a month. I said, you want to work or you want to do something else? She says, what's there to do? I said, well, they got one store in town called the Piggly Wiggly, and it's 45 minutes to a Walmart. She says, well, I'll work. And so she went back, and she didn't know an ace from a deuce, basically. So I said, well, we're going to do the rebuys. You count the money. No problem. So we have a rebuy tournament. And people's like, Bob Stupak goes 3, Phil owes 2, Doyle owes 4. And she's not saying a word, but when we're counting the money up, they're all paying and this and that. So now at the end, she's counting the money up, and I can just see the sweat running down. And at the end of it, everything was perfect. He says, "See, I told you, no problem." I said, yeah. So now after a few days, we started doing the 2-a-day tournaments, which was good because instead of 18, 20 hours a day, it was only like 12 or 13. It's like a vacation. So the regular tournament, we get down to like 4 or 5 tables. So she didn't know how to make decisions real well, but she knew about how to do seats and move.
Right.
So now I'm doing the final table, and she's right there close by with 4 or 5 tables. And the funniest one from Tunica was they got a study it or better tournament going, and they're down to like 900. So we were in the regular tournament. We played 2 hours, take a break, or they're taking a break. I say, "Are they down to 8 yet?" She says, "They're never going to get down to 8. They keep splitting the pot."
Terrible.
I'm a bad husband. I can't help it. But everything was good. She did satellites at the Four Queens, and we felt the floor roll when we had the earthquake.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And Doug Dalton he wanted me to come to work at the Bellagio. And I said, "Well, I don't feel right getting paid at the Bellagio and getting paid down there too. So after the tournament, I'll come." Wrong. There was a holding freeze for 6 months. So I go to the Bellagio, and he wanted to do 1 tournament a month. I said, "If that's what you want." I said, "That wasn't working out too well. So let's have a regular tournament." So that went well. And 2 weeks after I go to the Bellagio, Steve Lipscomb and Mike Sex come in, and they pitched the World Poker Tour.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Doug, who was the absolute master poker politician, I think he got called to gaming like 200 times and never lost a case.
Wow.
And so after they leave, Doug says, "What do you think?" I said, "It'll work," because I just did the first live broadcast over on the Isle of Man for Ladbrokes, and I did the first heads-up tournament in Vienna, and come back. And 2 guys with little lipstick cameras they were like 20 years old from Finland, they filmed it. And a week later, they had it out. And in Ladbrokes, they did it on like Thanksgiving night, which they didn't care about because it was on the Isle of Man.
Sure, yeah.
And on Sunday, they had it on like Fox Sports West, and where at the time ESPN was on like 9 months later.
Right.
And you didn't know if it was 3 a.m. or what. Who cares who commenced second in the Kentucky Derby a year later? Right?
Yeah.
Right. Same type of thing, and people still love to watch it.
Yeah.
So they come along and they made I think it was Tuesday night poker night or Wednesday night poker night on the Travel Channel. And I mean, nobody watches the Travel Channel. All of a sudden, everybody's watching the Travel Channel. We got these huge crowds. And I remember when I was at Commerce, they had like 200-300 tables. And to keep one no limit or pot limit game to go, and they had to hire like 20 people to help play to keep it going.
Right.
And like 6 months after the World Poker Tour started, I go over and there's like 200 no limit games. People walk in the Bellagio and say, "I want to play that game where you can show your cards and go all in."
Yep.
Oh my gosh. That's great.
Well, I want to ask one last question before we let you go. You had the honor of being inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame several years ago. I think it was the same class as Daniel Negreanu.
Yep.
Which is, was certainly a big year. What was that honor like for you to be recognized by the industry like that?
It was very humbling, very appreciated. All the time I was working on it, I never even give it a thought, because that's for the players basically. But there were a lot of people there, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, and well deserved. I know Jesse and I are big fans of everything that you've done.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that is going to do it for this episode of the Chad and Jesse Poker Show. Thank you to our guest, Jack McClelland, Poker Hall of Famer, for joining us. And remember, we're recording new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Friday and releasing shortly thereafter, all summer long during the 2023 World Series of Poker.